Anywho, Nate,
Uh-huh.
start the episode.
Are we recording?
Yes.
Are
Been
you
for
sure?
a while.
There's no evidence of this. I require evidence before I believe anything you tell me. All right, fine.
The evidence is posted in chat where I. Oh,
See, I opened that and it's just dead air, so that's not evidence at all. In fact, it's fake evidence. But it might be proof of your schizophrenia. Not
Would you like
really
me to
sure.
upload it onto my channel?
Not really, because it's hurtful and my feelings will be sad. Now that I'm completely distracted and have no recollection of what we're talking about. Hello. This is part 2 of the episode that we probably uploaded a week ago, I'm gonna assume. Maybe. Possibly. We recorded it the other day and I had to leave, so we didn't get to finish it. We were talking about we didn't really have a catchy way to title it, but we were talking about basically reminiscences from our childhoods, of things we did that were dangerous, other people did that were dangerous, or just like funny stories that involved comedic harm either at the time or later on.
What are you talking about? Didn't have a title. I had a great title for the video file that I have. It's called Dangerous Games.
That's just mundane and boring. Where's the alliteration? Speaking of which, I thought of a name for our podcast.
Dingus.
Our podcast could be called Disappointed Dragons Dithering Discussions, because that's a lot of D's.
Oh, and you want the D?
I refuse to answer that question. Wow. As you've heard, Kevin is also here. He's just silently waiting for us to stop talking. Right, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm definitely not slightly distracted figuring out Witchcraft, that is the video editing software.
Yeah, that's fair. So last time we ended with a story from, I believe it was Kevin telling us about how he had destroyed a child who had been hitting him with the dodgeball, but Kevin waited for the most opportune moment to destroy him in one shot as opposed to the other guy hitting him with 3. And it actually did remind me of several stories from my own gym class. In fact, one of my earliest memories of my brother-in-law is a similar tale. And I actually told it at his wedding. So, good for me. Basically, we were playing handball, and we also had gym with mixed grades at one point. And I think I'm like 3 years older than him, maybe 4. And we were playing handball, and the ball rolled over to him. And I was like, hey, can you give me back the ball? And him being smarmy decided that instead of giving me the ball, he was going to throw it to the other end of the gym. I didn't appreciate that. So I went to go get the ball. And then once I finally had the ball, I decided that in my infinite wisdom and poor aim, I would throw it at him really hard to hit him. So I called out his name and said, heads up, and then whipped it at him. I wasn't aiming for his face, but he turned around at that exact second, and it hit him square in the face. And only from about like 10 feet away. He was in like grade 7. He cried. I hit him really hard. My teacher wasn't in the room, but she came back in, saw he was crying on the bench, and was like, why is he crying on the bench? And I said, I hit him in the face with a dodgeball. She just looked at me, said, Nathaniel, shook her head, and walked away. That was the only response I got.
Look, you were a troubled child. She knew that you were going to take your troubles out on someone eventually.
Yeah. And the worst and / best part of that story is when I got home and I told my dad, he said, you made another kid cry. That's my boy. And then we told that part at the wedding, and he has not been that embarrassed in a long time, and I got quite a lot of satisfaction out of that.
That's great.
Of the same line, I must really hate people throwing balls away from me. Maybe it's just because I'm super lazy and don't want to get it. But there was another kid that nobody really particularly enjoyed, and he did the same thing to me, and we were playing handball, but this time we were actually playing, and you were only allowed to hit people if they had the ball. So I was following him, waiting for him to get the ball, and as soon as he picked up the ball, I full body shoulder barged into him, and he went like 7 feet. It was really satisfying.
So, in the vein of making someone cry, I have a similar story. This would be grade 11 or grade 12. I can't remember. Those two grades kind of mushed together at this point in my life. We were in PE and we were playing hockey. Not like on the ice. We were just in some sort of back area that was fenced in, normal asphalt ground, playing hockey. And we're playing, and I was a jackass and a show off. So I was being a jackass and a show off and trying to style on some people who really probably didn't want to be there. So they weren't trying their hardest. So I got bored and decided to go for a trick shot. And I try and do this flick trick shot. I don't remember exactly what I was trying to do, but I flicked the ball up, and instead of it going into the net or the goalie stopping it, it pangs off the goalpost at the perfect angle to ricochet straight into this one other girl's forehead. It left like a 2 or 3 inch large bruise straight in the middle of her forehead. She was bawling her eyes out after that. I felt so bad. But karma did get me that day. As you know how I said it was fenced in area? It was that shitty metal crisscross wires. And somewhere along the fence, one of the wires had snapped and curved out. And at one point, I was running to pass someone, and I managed to kick into that wire fence. It pierced straight through my shoe and between 2 of my toes.
Ouch. Sounds very painful.
It hurt, and there was resistance in getting my foot off of the spike.
Oh no. My foot is like clenching thinking about that.
Yeah, because I got in there, I was like, oh! And the teacher's like, okay, that's weird for Will to be making a noise, and kind of came over, was like, what did you do? She looks down and sees the thing. Is that in your foot? Oh, it is. Okay, I'm going to go down. We're going to gently pull it out. Will, don't resist me. I'm not resisting. We're not going to be gentle. We're going to yank this fucker out. Scream if you need to. Whoop. Oh,
Screaming loudly. Loud screaming noises.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that one hurt. That one fucking hurt.
I should also point out right now, if I haven't already edited into the beginning of the video, do not do the things we did.
Oh no,
we were either assholes or idiots. Do not do any of these things.
You want to? Another time that I managed to hurt myself. So I lived in a little complex, and it was on a hill, and there was a bunch of hilly sections. One of them was a grass hill, and I had rollerblades, and I loved to play rollerblading. And my mom would always be like, "Go down the fucking concrete ramp. Don't go down the damn grass. You're gonna slip, fall, and hurt yourself." And me being a dumbass was like, "Why would I fall? If I fall, I'm gonna fall on grass. How's that gonna hurt myself?" There were 2 occasions where it hurt me decently badly. One was where I fell and I managed to knee myself in the face so hard my tooth pierced straight through my lower lip.
Wonderful.
Leaving a hole that I would actually put a drinking straw through to drink from for a while.
What is wrong with you?
I'm dumb. And then a second time, like a year and a half later, when I went down as a friend was trying to go up, and he managed to headbutt me so hard that my tooth pierced through my lower lip again.
I'll teach you to go down on a friend.
I did not go down on this friend. He went down after feeling the force that was my face. Turns out my chin was stronger than his head. He was not a happy camper.
Dear.
So don't be me. Don't be dumb.
No. Also, don't do to our teacher what me and my brother did to my teacher.
This one.
Yeah, it was not exactly dangerous except for the chance of a heart attack. But have you guys ever had those water bottles from like Superstore, the ones that are really crunkly?
Oh,
and they make like horrible crunching noises.
I see where this is going.
Yeah. My brother had a long jacket on, and we had him hide one of those bottles under his armpit. And we went to my teacher and said, "Hey, do you want to see a trick my brother can do?" And then he twerked his neck with his hands, crushed the bottle, and collapsed on the ground, and just kind of twitched.
Caleb is also very good at
At going
ragdolling.
limp. Yeah. It's actually kind of impressive. She screamed. And I legitimately was afraid that she was going to go apoplectic. So we ended the charade really quickly. But man, did I feel bad. Because I did not think Caleb was that good of an actor. To the point where when my sister went to her class later after me and Caleb had both graduated, and she was talking to Bethany, she's like, "You're brothers." And then she just shook her head and walked away. I'm sorry. If she ever watches this, but she won't, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
The best part, I'm gonna make this real nerdy, is she
I
had
would just
Ginny to the Weasleys moment.
I just
Oh,
have to
no,
point
another
out that my
Weasley.
brother just shouted from the other room that he's not sorry.
Good. He shouldn't be. He did something great.
Oh man. I mean, some of the dumb stuff that we used to do as kids is just stuff that parents used to allow us to do, and not just parents, but like people in authority. Like I remember when I used to go to camps. Some of the things that we would do at camps, you would never do these days.
Like
At
what?
one camp we went to in Point Roberts, they had like a giant slingshot. I'm not talking like large, I'm talking huge. It was like surgical tubing, like 8 or 9 feet of it on either side of the pocket, and they would launch water balloons from it towards us all standing out in the field. And I'm not talking like big water balloons, I'm talking about those little tiny ones that don't always burst. Like, I mean,
Yikes.
most of the time it was okay, but there's a couple of times where you'd see someone get hit in the face with it and it wouldn't burst, and that person just went down. There was flashlight tag when we would go into the woods while we were camping with flashlights, and you'd play like... You'd have to run through the forest and tag each other with flashlights. I can't see that ever going bad.
Okay, so I've got one that actually you might even have done. Rather than flashlight tag, it was a capture the flashlight game where you had one flashlight on each side that was pointed up straight into the sky, basically being a beacon. You waited till it was pitch fucking black, and then there was a bunch of us creeping through the woods without flashlights or any sort of sign, trying to get that tag. And if we were seen or called out, you had to go all the way back to the beginning and then try a new sneaky way. So not only are we sneaking through the woods in the pitch darkness, not making sounds, trying to be sneaky and hide and not able to see where we're going. This particular time it happened, we were next to a lake, and there was a section which was an overhang over that lake. So it was very easy to have just slid off straight into the deepest part of the lake. There were also sections you would step on, and the ground would just cave into the lake. It was so much fun.
I mean, there's a lot of, like, if you think about, like, certain things that they used to have at pools and things like ice rinks and stuff, a lot of that stuff just doesn't exist anymore because it's just not really safe, and it's just a liability nightmare right now. Like, I don't know if you remember, but pools used to have, like, those giant inflatable jungle gyms that looked like an iceberg, and they would just let all of the kids clamber on it at once.
Yep.
Definitely couldn't have any, like, negative experiences. Something I used to do that was really dangerous, but not because of anything besides my own incompetence. I'm pretty sure, Kevin, you would have not experienced this, but whenever I used to go skating, which I don't anymore, ice skating, I never learned how to stop. So I would only stop by flying full tilt into the boards. That was how I always stopped.
Yeah,
Or hit someone else.
Fun story about players that can't stop, or people that skate and can't stop. I had a 1 year playing hockey where I had a teammate. It was his first year even skating, let alone playing hockey. He was big, and not big like he was fat. I'm talking big like he was jacked.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
And so he could move in a straight line efficiently. Turning and stopping was an absolute nightmare. Now, thankfully, at this point in time, hockey was still a contact sport. The issue with this, though, is that he is like 100 pounds of muscle over top everyone else on the ice, minus like my brother and I and a couple other people. So when he would stop, he would hit little people. Like, like not even fair. Not even remotely fucking fair. No fucking contest. He would plow through these poor children.
He's like, I'm trying to stop, but it's not working. They're
there was
just getting
one-
knocked out of the way.
I remember one time, Michael would be able to tell you in great detail where they both collided. Now, I've never seen Hugo stop before because he usually goes through things. It was like watching two Titans just go into each other. They just slammed into each other, and Mike gets up. He just looks at Hugo, goes, "The fuck?" Because he's winded now. And Hugo's getting up, goes, "I'm so sorry."
Okay, so I have one story about ice skating, and for the squeamish of you, you might want to skip ahead like 30 seconds. And
Oh
listen
no,
to
I've heard this one. Come on, Coffee, get here soon. I don't want to listen to this one again.
So when I was younger and ice skating, again, I'm a show off. I'm doing stupid things. I also was not a good ice skater, but I'm still a show off, so I have to try and show off however I could. And I was skating, and it was at a elementary school, like, hey, field trip, that's the word, a field trip to the ice rink. Let's all go let's go do some ice skating. So I'm there, and we're all skating around and whatever, and I'm not wearing gloves. And at one point, I don't remember what I was trying to do. I might have been trying to stop. I don't really remember. But I fucked up. And I managed to slip on the ice. And slice open my thumb to the bone. And I'm down, I'm hit there, and there's blood already just pouring out of my thumb. And I can see bone. And back then, I was surprisingly calm. And I just go, I can't remember the teacher's name. Teacher, I made a mistake. Teacher looks over and just sees I'm sitting in a pile of red, just a puddle of red, with red going down my hand, and screams. Comes over to me and is like, "Oh my fuck. Okay, so we're gonna patch you up." They end up bandaging up my thumb, and they put a bandage on there that was, I could not close my hand if I tried to make a fist around the bandage. It was this big, thick bandage wrapping up my thumb.
To stop the bleeding.
You're making my finger hurt just thinking about it. My coffee also just got here, not in time to save me.
Okay, so the story's not over yet. So I have this big bandage on, and they're like, "Okay, you'll be fine. It's a bandage. When we get back to the school, we can do something else." Okay, that's fine. 10 minutes later, I'm like, "Hey, the bandage is leaking."
Oh no.
And they're like, "Oh, it's managed to soak through the bandage. Okay, we'll bandage you up again." So they take that one off, and they put another one on. At this point, they're like, "Okay, everyone get the fuck into the school buses. We're heading out. It's time to go back." And before we go, my teacher's like, "Hey, do you have any spare bandage just in case it leaks again on the bus?" And she was wise beyond her years in that moment, because we got about halfway there, and I'm like, "Hey, teacher, it's starting to run down my hand again." So they had to unbandage it, and I'm still just bleeding like nobody's business. Bandage it up a third time. I get back to the school, and it's finally like not seeping through.
Do you like cut an artery or something?
My mom comes to pick me up. It's like, "What the fuck happened?" And so I tell her the story. It is one of the few times I was legitimately scared of my mom. She looked like she was going to murder someone, and in my dumbass kid brain, I'm like, "Oh, I fucked up big time." She was not happy with the school for not just calling an ambulance when I bled through the first big ass bandage.
They probably should have, to be perfectly honest.
They really should have, because I was, again, this was elementary school, so I was like sub-teenager. Not a lot of blood in my system in the first place. I was very woozy for the next like day and a half.
I wonder why.
Yep.
Thankfully, when I got thankfully when I got cut by a skate, it wasn't quite that bad. Like, not down to the bone. It was just, players will swing their feet over the board to get out. They won't just use the gate like a normal human. They got to like show off
Yep.
and shit.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So I was the linesman because I was a hockey official for so many long years. And I'm just standing there at the blue line, watching for stuff, the play and the puck. Kid gets off, another kid gets to come on. He swings up and kicks my hand. And at first I'm like, "Oh shit, he kicked my hand." So, but like my hand's kind of frozen because for reasons unknown, you're not allowed to use gloves as a hockey official. It looks unprofessional. They'd rather your hands turn blue instead.
You couldn't wear like skin tight ones? That doesn't make any sense.
No gloves whatsoever. It just does not look professional. That is the reasoning I got.
That is so stupid, but continue.
So I get I'm thinking, okay, he just kicked me with the boot, not thinking anything of it. Little do I realize about 5 minutes later, the play gets blown down. I'm super confused because there's no reason for the play to get blown down. The referee comes over to me because I'm just a linesman. Goodness, 1 second. I am terribly sorry. Someone's at my door.
So I'm just going to give a little preamble while he's in the middle of that. That's one of 2 times where I've seen my own bones.
I thought your hand got run over. Like you had your hand on the ice and someone went over it with the skate.
I managed to fuck myself.
Lots of damage. Lots and lots and lots of damage. So yeah, in any case, just the last bit of the story was referee comes by, says, "Dude, your hand." And I go, "What do you mean, my hand?" Like, "Yeah, it hurts. I got kicked." He goes, "No, you're bleeding." And I look, I got like cut kind of like where the right where the pinky kind of connects to the rest of your hand.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So I looked down and go, "Yeah, I'm bleeding." So we had to like stop the play. We had to get the Zamboni out to clean the ice because, well, there's now blood on the ice. It's like their third period doesn't exist anymore. Gotta get all the stuff, but it was fantastic. This is also during the Cloverdale Christmas tournament as well, so
So speaking of unnecessary emergency room trips, I have gone to the emergency room for some pretty stupid reasons. Apparently, when I was like less than 6, I was, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, chewing on a piece of firewood while watching cartoons.
Oh no.
And I managed to get a piece of sharp wood stuck in the back of my throat.
Yikes.
Oh.
So my dad had to drive me to the emergency while keeping me from like panicking and swallowing the wood, apparently. I don't really have any memory of this. Aside from like, I can picture myself doing it from the outside, but I have no memory of it happening. But apparently it did. I do, however, have very vivid memories of when I cut the tip of my finger off when I was breaking hot dogs apart.
Oh, I've done that too. It's awful.
Yeah, I was using a steak knife and the hot dogs were frozen together. And, because I'm super intelligent, I decided that if I just, shoved the knife into between the hot dogs enough times, they would break apart. And I've done it many times and it was usually fine. But someone called my name this time and I was pushing up on the hot dogs with the knife. And then it went through and continued through the tip of my finger, which didn't quite come off, but it was hanging off. And so I'm running around the house because I didn't actually feel any pain at the time. But my mom was in the bathroom, of course, at that time. So I'm like, "Mom, I think I cut off the tip of my finger. I'm bleeding. We need to go to the hospital." And my sister is just calmly following me, wiping up the blood over the floor. We go to the emergency room and they glued my finger back together, and I still have a scar there.
So I did a similar thing, but it's just slightly different. I was in a cooking class, and I was chopping carrots, and I had to chop something like 800 carrots. So I was chop. Hey, there's blood.
Oh, no.
Hey, teacher, I believe I have cut the tip of my middle finger off.
My most important one.
What's the driving finger?
You're joking. So, of course, I flip him the bird. I'm a cheeky high schooler at that point. And he's like, "Oh, that's weird." He then pushes the tip, because it wasn't 100% off as well. It was holding on by a skin flap. He pushes it on, and we stick a finger condom over it. He slaps my hand and says, "All right, get back to work." I go back to chopping.
And fired.
Eventually, it started dripping out of the finger condom. And he's like, "Oh, fuck, fine. This looks like an actual problem. Go to the nurse's office." So I go to the nurse's office. I'm like, "Hey, I've got a problem." Well, actually, no. What happened is I went to the nurse's office because it was within the main office. And they're like, "Will, you got sent to the office again?" Not because I'm in trouble this time. I was known there for being a troublemaker. And they're like, what? And so I show them, instead of properly flipping the bird, I just hang the finger down and this blood-filled finger condom on my finger. And they're like, oh, what class were you in? I was in cooking class. Okay. So then we go, we drain it. She takes a look at it and is like, well, it's sticking on there pretty good. So we put a bandage on it, a new finger condom on it, and sent me back to class.
The worst time I've had to go to the emergency, though, man. That was when I ran over my friend's foot.
Ooh.
That felt pretty bad. That felt pretty bad. The worst part. Okay, so you know what happened was I used to give my friends rides a lot because none of my friends had cars at one point, and we were all getting in the car, and I heard the door close. I thought he was in. What it was is someone else had closed the car door, and he was only half in. Ooh. So when I pulled forward, his other foot was still in front of the back wheel.
Yep.
Yeah, so we went right over his foot. He was in horrible pain. We got to the hospital. We sat there in the waiting room. I am inconsolable. He is trying his best to make me feel better because I ran over his foot while he is sitting there in pain. He's like, don't worry, I'm sure it's fine. It only hurts. It's okay, man. I'm like, I've run over your foot. What if you never walk again? And then he goes in and gets his x-rays done. There was literally nothing wrong with his foot. It was just bruised. And the guy who did his x-ray was like, my friend ran over my foot once. It hurts, doesn't it? And I was like, what are the odds?
So I'm going to go back to something. I hinted at it while Kevin was busy. So there has been one other time in which I have seen my own bones. This was in high school.
Go back to it.
So in high school, we had this thing where, well, at least in my first high school, we had a thing where every day at lunch, we would go onto the field and we would play football. Full contact, no pads. Because we're just SMRT, we're smart. There was this one guy whose name was Cole. And Cole was fucking massive. Probably a foot, maybe a foot and a half of height on me.
Why do people with the name Cole always humongous?
I don't know, but they are the Cole train. I just wonder if they run on whole grain.
You know what? You're fired. Get out. I don't want to hear the rest of the story.
So he's a foot and a half taller than me, like just towering. He's also wide, beefy, and fat. He is just big in every sense of the word. And this guy was known because he was great to have on your team and it would suck to play against because when you try to tackle him, he would just bounce your ass off and keep going, right? He was a fucking freight train. One time, one other thing we should note first is we also played on an artificial turf field. So that shitty plastic grass with the rubber pellets. So we're playing, and one time I get the ball and I'm running. And then he's right behind me and he is faster than me. Like this guy, big boy, big legs, he sprints. He decides, well, I don't want to try and tackle him from behind. I might get kicked in the face. I'm going to jump onto his back. So this guy,
it's gonna only
100
end
pounds
well.
heavier than me, maybe 150 pounds heavier than me, and we are both going full fucking tilt. He grabs me. Of course, I'm not supporting both our weights. We land down on my left shin and skid all of our weight on the turf for a good 30 inches on one shin, and it just rips the front of my shin off in a decently sized location. Thankfully, it ripped it off mostly in one piece. The one section was just gone. And so I am, again, bleeding up a storm, holding the front of my shin on. One of my friends is like, oh, I know. We'll take you to the medical room, but we need to deal with something because we don't want to get blood all over the floors. We'll get yelled at. So we have a bunch of paper towels from the lunchroom on us and just regular old cellophane tape. We just put everything back up so it's kind of in the right position, put a bunch of paper towel on it, and just tape the paper towel to my leg. And I feel nothing. I have no sense of pain in this whatsoever. So I'm like, oh, this is great. I'll just walk back to the medical office. So I walk to the medical office, and I've got one friend with me, and he's just like, you're starting to leak again. I'm like, yeah, well, we got nothing to do about it, so we're nearby. I'll just take the yelling, whatever. We get there, and it's locked. They're not there for whatever reason. It's like, okay, let's go to the office. Walk over to the office. Hey, no one's in the office. What happened? Oh, some kid was giving trouble, and so they went to go look at that. Okay, let's go walk and find them. And I'm just trailing drips of blood all over the fucking high school at this point with my soaked paper towel, and kids are looking at me like, what the fuck happened and what the fuck is wrong with that guy? And we're walking around, and I'm like, man, my leg is starting to hurt now. The adrenaline is starting to wear off, and this really doesn't feel right, guys. Oh, it's fine. We'll get to the teacher soon. Okay. We could not find the principal. We could not find the proper medical teacher, but we did run into the PE teacher who I knew. She was awesome. We're talking with Miss Palmer, and she's like, okay, so what happened? This happened. You say you had to like flip a part back. Oh yeah. Do you want to see? Yeah, sure. Let's take a look. All right. We'll need something to cut through. We cut through it, and she pulls back the paper towel, and I don't know what she was expecting to see, but she was not expecting to see what she saw. And she just looks at it, immediately pushes it back up and goes, okay, you wait here. I'm going to go call for an ambulance. What? Why? That's not good. Have you been walking anywhere? Oh yeah, we walked around the whole damn school at this point. Sorry about the blood. We had nothing to wipe it up with. Will, you fucking moron.
I kind of hope that's what she actually said.
No, she did say that, and she was like, I didn't just say that, but Will. But they had a paramedic come, and the paramedic was like, oh, we can just wrap it up. And so the paramedic used, it's basically tape that's you can use instead of getting stitches. So stitch tape or something like that is called. And they just put that along it, wrapped up my leg, and sent me home.
Oh boy.
I'm sure I was very angry.
I bet.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure I've told you guys the reason that I don't ever do snow sports anymore, right?
Tell.
I'm sure I've complained about this in the past. So you know what a tricycle looks like?
Yeah.
It has a wheel in the front and 2 wheels in the back. Well, up north in Burns Lake, they have these homemade monstrosities that they call GTs, which are a tricycle, but instead of wheels, they have ski sleds. And my cousin's grandfather has a very large property, which includes 2 very, very high hills that he flattens with his snowplow so that we can go sledding on it every year. Okay, that's great. Normally, I would just go down in a giant, like, monster truck inner tube, which is relatively safe. It's got a lot of cushioning. It bounces. It's got a lot of surface area. It doesn't go too quickly. Great. Cool. Super fun. Someone convinced me to try the GT this year. So I go to the top of the smaller hill because I'm not insane. I don't want to go to the top of the big hill. One of the adults broke his tailbone the year before. Let's not do that. That sounds awful. So I go down that hill. I'm going really, really fast. Something else I should mention, this hill ends in a flat. That flat ends on another hill that goes over the highway. There really is no chance that you should go that far. I'm a pretty heavy boy. I didn't really think about the logistics or the math of my acceleration, but I was going down the hill at like 50 kilometers an hour, and I was not slowing down. I could see the other hill coming. I saw the highway over that hill, and I began to panic a little. Normally, the GTs have brakes. The brakes are basically just an angled like foot pedal that has large spikes on it that you angle into the snow, and it like slides in the snow and puts in friction to slow you down, right? I had chosen the one that didn't have brakes. So I thought to myself, okay, there's nothing else for it. I'll put my foot down and use that like the brake. Well, instead of putting my foot partially into the snow and slowly sliding to a halt, my foot went deep into the snow, got stuck, and then my momentum pulled my top part forward, lifted the GT up, tangled my legs inside of it, and I rolled the rest of the way down the hill. In a tangle of Metal and Nathaniel. I felt I landed on the top of my head probably 4 times. I have no idea how I didn't snap my neck. I came to a tumbling halt at the bottom. No one came to see if I was okay. I picked myself out of the GT, threw it to the side, and slowly limped back into the little chalet that everyone was sitting in. And they were like, "Hey, Nathaniel, what's wrong with you?" I was bleeding from my leg. I just about died. They looked at me. You're walking fine. You're probably okay. I have not gone down that hill again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was convinced to go snow tubing again in an inner tube, and it was a small inner tube this time, not a large one. And at the bottom of the hill, there was a tiny little bump, and we hit the bump. And yeah, the tube went one way and I went the other.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, snow is surprisingly dangerous. I still remember the time we gave your brother a concussion so bad he doesn't remember most of that day. We were sledding and then a sled hit him in the head.
Of course,
yeah. Actually, he literally was telling me about that when I was talking about this. He told me about one time when he was on the metal toboggan, and he went down an icy slope, and he went down super fast, wiped out, and he hit his head on the ground, and then the toboggan came rocketing down and hit him in the head for the double tap.
Yep. And I did not, me and my dad, who was also that time, we didn't see any of this. Caleb just comes to us. He's like, "Man, I've got such a headache." "Well, what happened?" "This happened." "Oh, that's weird." And we're like, "Okay, fine. That's, do we have any, I don't remember if we even had Tylenol for him or not." It was like, okay, that's whatever. And then, yeah, later Caleb's like, "Yeah, I don't remember getting there or sledding before that happened. It's just all gone." So, oh.
Yeah, he says all he remembers is your dad asking him how many fingers, and then he remembers asking you the same thing about 12 times.
He did ask me the same thing a lot that day.
Yeah, he had a slight concussion.
Yeah, minor. It's all fun and games.
He lived. It's okay.
You would think snow would be so nice and fluffy, but no, it gets deadly after it gets compacted a few times.
I think the problem for me was actually being tangled inside of a metal death trap on the way down.
Don't worry, Nate. That's how I'm going to die with my motorcycle. So you've just seen the precursor.
Oh my goodness! I can't believe we've gone this far and I haven't talked about theme parks yet.
I was
literally thinking to myself, I don't think I have any more stories, and then my brain was like, "You almost died at Knott's Berry."
Well, that's the best part is just a peek behind the curtain for those at home. The whole reason you wanted to talk about this is you wanted to tell your theme park story.
Yeah, I know, and we got distracted by everything else.
Time.
Yeah, I don't
Part
know.
Part 3. Lego.
No.
We still have some time. Go for it.
We have time. I'm telling the story. Okay, I don't know if anybody's been to Knott's Berry before. Knott's Berry Farms is the Peanuts themed theme park in the States. Peanuts as in Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and all that kind of stuff. It's one of the less amazing theme parks in comparison to like Six Flags or Disneyland. We went there. It was one of our park hoppers for when we went down to California to go to Disneyland. We got there was very few people there. We went on a day where we got to go in early. Even when it was open, there was very few people there. And it became apparent why. The people there were not very good at their jobs, nor did they seem to care. I am a self-admitted large man, but this is America. They have seats my size. I know they do. So we went to one of those machines that like spins. You have a bunch of seats in like a circle and you sit facing outwards and the machine spins and goes up and down, right? He's like, "Okay, you're a big boy. We have a large person seat. I think it's this one." Sits me in the seat, won't close. "Okay, it's not that one. Let's try the other one." You'd think you'd be able to tell by looking at them, but apparently not. So we get to like the third seat and the guy's like, "We're just going to make it close." So he grabs the restraint, and it's one of those plastic ones that comes over your shoulders, and slams it into my stomach. I cannot breathe because he hit me so hard, and then it doesn't click shut. So he's like, "Okay, I'll try again." He hits me again with the restraint. I can't tell him to stop because he is murdering me. Then he says, "Hey, Jose, you're stronger than me. You give this a try." And he calls over the bigger carny, who now comes over and starts trying to close the seat on my stomach. My dad comes over eventually and says, "Guys, I think he's had enough. He's not going to fit. Let him out, please." I get out. I now have not gotten to ride the ride, and I have been beaten by 2 large carnival workers with the safety harness. And that
Hey,
wasn't
man.
the end of the issues.
At least that ride had a safety harness.
No. I'm not done yet. You know the Elevator? I'm sure you guys have been on the Elevator before.
I have not been on it, but I know of it.
Yeah,
Every
so it's
chunky man's worst nightmare.
it is
Yep.
a tower that shoots up with seats around the side, and it's the same kind of seat which goes over your shoulder. I fit in the seat perfectly fine this time. That wasn't the problem. I get into the seat and I try to close the restraints. It closes about 2 inches, just enough that with how low the seats are to the ground, I can't slide out because my feet are touching the ground. But I also can't buckle it up. The guy goes around and checks all of the seats except for the row that I'm sitting in and starts counting down to launch the ride. I couldn't get out of the seat while it was on the ground. As soon as it shot up, there was more than enough room for me to slide out. I am literally panicking. I am like screaming, "Don't shoot the ride. It's not closed." My dad is doing the same thing. He is locked in the one beside me. He is already in. He can't get out. The guy hears us, gets to like 3 and is like, well, okay, wait a second, guys. Walks over. I'm like, the restraint is broken. You didn't even check it. And he's like, just use this seat. And he just walks me over to another seat and puts me in that one and then launches the ride. I was so like paralyzed by fear. I didn't leave. I should have just left at that point because that was like, he didn't even blink. He's just like, we'll use this one then. Doesn't even think about the fact that he almost killed me.
Yeah,
You don't
he's so
care.
beaten down, he doesn't care.
Also, wooden roller coasters, those things are awful.
So yeah, that's what I was referencing is at the park near us, the Peony, there's this wooden roller coaster. And if you're with someone else of roughly the same size as you, it's a great time. You have an over-the-lap bar, and you'll press against each other and whatnot, and you'll have a bunch of fun as you zip and zap around. Now, I have had the, let's call it pleasure, of being alone in one of those cars.
Terrifying.
And-
Absolutely terrifying.
Wooden
Yeah,
roller coasters are terrible.
I'm a man of vast mass, but even I am not squeezed in by the bar. The bar is there more of a suggestion to hopefully capture your legs. It doesn't actually clicks down on you.
Yum.
And so I'm like, okay, let's do this ride. And it starts going, and I'm sitting on the right side of the car. We go around the first turn, and I'm in the left seat.
And I don't
I'm
know
like,
if you guys
what
have ridden
the
on a wooden
fuck?
roller coaster. They vibrate. You feel
They
like your
vibrate.
ribs have been used as a xylophone when you get off of that thing.
So, in that car, we go through the whole thing. It's slamming me left, right, left, right, left, right, inside the seat. I'm getting beaten, and I feel so dizzy because I can't pay attention to anything now.
Yeah.
And then we go over one of the sharper turns at the top,
Oh yeah.
and I get air. My bum clears the seat, and I wasn't holding on to the bar at the time. And so I start sliding out. And then I slam down onto the back of my fucking seat thing and flop back into the carriage with a nice big straight line bruise across my bum I discovered later.
So theme parks, especially older rides, are definitely not made with safety in mind. There was this one called the Rainbow, my favorite ride. I'm so sad it's gone, but I mean, there's probably a reason for it. It was just a bunch of plastic like bucket seats. Like, think the high chairs at the McDonald's back in the old playpens. It's just a plastic bucket and had a little metal, like, looked like a capital P that would come down over your knees. And it was super large. So my brother, being the thin little bastard that he is, rode it with my dad. And on the way down, he lifted out of the seat the entire way. My dad had to grab him and push him back into the seat because there was nothing holding him in because he was too thin for the restraints. My sister also fell out of the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland, and one of the plastic skeletons on the wall landed on top of her. It was a good day.
So there's another ride similar to that. That's an old ride that is no longer in use. They finally tore it down, called the Mousetrap at the Peony.
Oh
Oh,
man, I remember the mousetrap.
oh,
It's this
scary.
little blue car that would zip around this really tight
Yeah.
track.
Yeah.
And there's a specific corner, which you can see from ground level, has a shitload of padding on it when none of the other structure does. The reason is the corner is so sharp and that pole is so near, people constantly are smashing their head into it. And beforehand, it was bare metal and it cracked some skulls. And so they decided, let's just put like 6 pillows worth of wrapping onto it. It'll be fine, right? So now when you go around that corner, instead of breaking your skull, you just get a softer concussion and whiplash on your neck.
Did you guys ever go on one of those like centrifugal rides that has like a car for 2 people and it just spins really fast?
No,
Never,
but my brother and my dad did.
Never, ever put the big guy on the inside seat. I was that big guy with someone smaller than me. They were pretty much dead by the time the ride was over.
Yeah, it's called the Scrambler at the Peony, I think.
Yeah.
It
And the
is.
best
It's
part of it
terrible.
is, because I was a teenager at the time, I was pushing as well, because I was like, you know what? Fine, you can just die then.
So there's one of those ones at the Peony, and my dad and my brother rode on it, and my brother, he did not have the proper neck strength for that ride. And his head was wobbling around so much that during the ride, my dad actually grabbed my brother and pulled him in to keep his head resting, like in my dad's armpit, because he was worried my brother was going to snap his neck from rattling it so much.
Oh my freaking goodness. I love the Peony. I want to go there now and do all these dangerous things again.
It's an experience for sure. Oh.
This is the exact reason that whenever I see one of those rides, like the one where they do the bungee jump ride, the one at the Peony where they strap you into the like full body bungee and drop you, that's why I will never ride on that.
No.
I have seen how often things go wrong at like amusement parks. With my luck, it'll be the first time it snaps one of them and I go flying around the pole and just get like impaled on the pole or something ridiculous like that.
So I agree, I would never ride it. One of my favorite things is whenever you see a video of a ride technician who's just a cheeky bastard, they wire someone in or whatever, and then right before they hit go, they throw a bolt out in front of them. I'm like, oh, look, a bolt, that's fine, and then hit the button just to freak out the people in the machine.
Oh, that monster.
The look, there's always just a still of the frame of the 2 people in there whose face, who their logical brain is shut down at this point. So they just 100% are pure belief of, oh God, he just murdered me.
I'm also not going to lie. I'm really not that fond of those kinds of rides anymore. When I was younger, I used to really like roller coasters and stuff. These days, I actually much prefer the slower paced rides that have a lot of stuff to look at. Like, if, for example, if you went to like Disneyland, I'd much rather go on Pirates of the Caribbean than the California Screamer roller coaster.
I've never been that big on roller coasters, as in I'm a colossal pussy when it comes to roller coasters. But there is one thing at those places that scares me far more than any roller coaster, to the point where I cannot handle them. And the last time I went in one, I actually accidentally assaulted someone. That's haunted houses.
Yes. Yeah, my brother has pulled off their mask before.
So I didn't pull off anyone's mask. I still remember it vividly. I was going there. I was with my dad and my brother. We're going through the haunted house, and it's scary, and I'm fucking horrified. It scares the ever living piss out of me. I don't know why. And we go to this room, and there's it's a pitch black room with a bunch of glow in the dark spots all over the place. And unbeknownst to me, there is someone in a morph suit with those spots on them perfectly lined up in one of the corners, who jumps out and makes the very poor decision to jump directly at me. And he got within arm range. And I immediately screamed like a little girl while lashing out with a punch and got him square in the nose and just broke this guy's nose. I
There's
felt
a
so bad
reason-
afterwards, but I was like, literally, we go out because they kind of shut it down. They get us out a back door, same with their guy, and I'm sitting there vibrating. I'm still fucking horrified and filled with things as the poor guy in the mask is just in pain. And everyone, like all of the other people watching, are a little scared to get close to me because I'm so twitchy and jumpy and so fucking horrified.
There's
don't
a
do those
reason why they
anymore.
have a rule where they're not supposed to touch people who go in or get too close to them anymore.
Yes, I'm the reason.
There are some though that you have to sign a waiver, but if you go in there after signing the waiver, they can rough you up.
Mm-hmm.
Some haunted houses places, I think it's more in the States, but you have to sign a waiver, and if you go in there, like the people can't actually like push you around, grab you and stuff like that if you're in the haunted house.
Yep, I've seen that, and part of me really wants to do that because I love that idea, but I also know that haunted houses scare me like nothing else, and I go to pure. I am that little rat in the corner who's going to fight tooth and nail to live, and I shouldn't go to that place.
Of it that always gets me. It's the fact that like my brain knows that there's nothing actually scary in there, but it's the suspense of the jump scare that gets me every time because I hate jump scares because I am super susceptible. So the suspense of the jump scare is the worst part.
Yep.
Because you know it's going to happen. It's not a matter of
Yeah, you know it's going to happen. That's the problem because I know that there's actually nothing scary, but I'm still going to get jump scared. I'm not going to be actually frightened of anything that's in there, but the jump scare is still going to stop my heart.
Yeah, this is why I've never played Five Nights at Freddy's. But with that, it is that time again where we need to call it.
Fair enough.
This has been slightly therapeutic and great to make everyone squeamish go. Ah. So
A little bit, yeah.
Bye everyone.
Bye. Don't do anything we did. It was dangerous.